Started, just a couple of announcements first. Something that I want to put on your radar. I don't want to spoil too much, but the cabinet's planning on doing a CTF for IASG on Halloween, and that is a Tuesday. So October 31st, we'll be developing as a cabinet like a custom CTF that you guys can just go at that'll be a Tuesday, so it'll be during normal time. We still have to figure out all the details for it.
Will there be candy?
Probably, yeah. And other things that I don't want to bring up yet because I haven't mentioned it to the cabinet, but we're going to be getting together to work on this and have a hopefully cool Halloween themed CTF for you guys to do. So keep that on your schedule and let your friends know. Besides that, any updates on swag or not really?
Still got 1 week left, if I can speak English. Submit your designs, because we haven't had that many, and it makes me sad inside.
Okay. Yeah, get your design submitted if you want to see anything on the ISG swag. And then I think that's about it for announcements, if anybody else has anything. We'll talk about the puzzler after the main presentation. But yeah, so today's meeting, we have Matthew Burket here, director for the CDC. He'll be talking about securing the blue boxes. You guys can ask him questions. After that, we'll go into puzzlers, and then we have a beginner's night that I'll be doing on Python. So if you don't know anything about Python and you want to, then stick around for that. So I'll go ahead and hand the mic off to you. And
all right, let's get started. I see a lot of familiar faces, but just show of hands, who participated at the CDC this weekend? Okay, most of you. All right, so I'm going to quickly go over kind of the boxes that we had this scenario, but also there'll be some general advice for other ones as well. As Dana mentioned, I'm Matthew Burket. I was the director for the CDC. First, we'll go over the first things you should always do for CDC boxes. And we'll do some code audits and then do some demos of some of the exploits that they used. And we'll do look into some system audits as well. First thing, run your updates. Very helpful. So like, I don't know, if 30 cows drops in the middle of the CDC season, update your kernel. Good idea. Also change your passwords. There was a lot of flags captured at this CDC with CDC. Please change those. All right, now we'll go on to the code audit. I was talking with Alex, the one of the shooters of GradeBoa, and I don't think I did anything right was the quote we have from him on GradeBoa. So how many people looked at this file, this PHP-ORM? It was a beauty, wasn't it? All right, we'll go down to the bottom of the file. There's this beautiful mark safe function. Does wonderful things, like, all it does is just put quotes around it. You guys see that? Okay, I don't need to make it bigger. Cool. So all this does, if you can sift through it, just takes the value and then based on the type just puts quotes around it, or not puts quotes around it. Doesn't really do anything. Doesn't protect you from anything. It's used throughout the application. And you can kind of see a little bit more of a specific example of this on line 143. Did anyone see anything wrong with this code right here? What you're doing is taking the values directly from the user. That's beautiful.
You got hacked.
That's beautiful.
I didn't know it was possible.
Okay. All right, so what this is doing is that we saw the mark safe function earlier. This is just taking the user's values straight from the user into here, which is basically SQL injection. This is not quite as dangerous as it could be in other databases, this was using SQLite, but I believe SQLite doesn't support chaining of comments, if I remember correctly. Or something like that. Still bad. You probably should have fixed this. SQL, I saw a lot of flag captures. This is how people got their grade captures taken, their modified grade flags taken. Was the red team did some SQL injection and changed everybody's grades to, F-, because that's what they did. I'll look at auth.php. This was mentioned in the red debrief, but if the username equals the password, go ahead and authenticate them. That's fine, right? That'll work out real well. What I probably should have done here is remove this conditional, and then try to figure out some sort of password for the parents, because that was the parents' password was their social security number, which was also their username. Let's look at the edit grades. So we have this lovely if statement that checks if the user's logged in. However, we don't do anything. We just there was some checking in there to redirect to the login page, but there's this lovely comment of it's broken. Probably should fix it. Another issue was that there was a lot of these pages didn't have authentication. So this show parents page wouldn't have had all of the parents' social security numbers. So if you take this plus the unpatched vulnerability in off, and now you can log into any parent, you can add lunch money in to lunch accounts, and you can get the student's social security number. So now you can sell the flag and get the lunch monkey flag, because you have to have log in on the console login on the point of sale system. Look at lunch monkey source code as well. Same issue, username equals password. I don't know if that was coordinated by the authors of these two applications, but it was there in both of them. And some other issues is that we'll do a demo on Lunch Monkey. So if the first one is that login window doesn't actually do anything. You can just minimize it and you can use the application. So we'll go add some money to our lunch account. And then now we can sell the flag. It says it didn't sell it, but if we go back and check the reload the lunch balance, earlier it was, oh, it did change one number in there, so. Yeah, this Lunch Monkey API was interesting as well. Also, there wasn't any authentication on the API that Lunch Monkey used to talk to Grade BOA. That's another way you could have tried to add money to the account. And notice the only thing I needed was the parent's social security number, which I can get from if I can spell parents. Anyways, it would view parents. View parents. So if we There's a social security number right there. That's unauthenticated disclosure information. Are there any questions at this point?
Is that your real social security number?
No. So a lot of these social security numbers that we had were, we use a Python library called Faker. So that's where all those databases are from, is that we issued fake names, fake social security numbers, things of that nature. But yeah, but then you could just take this, log into a parent account, and do the attack I just showed. And that's how Red Team can get into a lot of the selling flags. All right, so things to look for in general. Injection, command injection, SQL injection. It is still OAuth's top one web vulnerability. Looks like it's probably going to be the same for 2017, but that list hasn't been finalized yet. So if you see something like this, where you're passing user input straight into the command line, probably should fix that. Also, there's a lot of business logic bugs in this one. In this scenario, we specifically say you do not need to be able to sell negative amounts of money, but the application as shipped, you could sell negative amounts and then transfer money to buy the flag. There's multiple different ways you can do that. And this XKCD comic, I think, is very applicable to this scenario. If you wonder where the Bobby Tables name came from, it's from this comic here. All right, so some of the files that we shipped on those boxes were a little suspicious. On Gradebook, specifically C99 and Upload 2. C99, which is just a tool. Generally, it's a server hack tool. Upload it. You can run commands as the web server. This can be fun, if you pair it with the web server running as root, which the provided WordPress server was running as root. Also, there's this upload.php file, very official developer upload. All right, now we're going to audit the system. There's lots of fun things on these systems. So the first thing you would have done if you SSH'd into grade BOA, CDC, and who am I? You were root. What happened is the person who set this up set all of the all the executables, the UID to root. So that means the UID is whoever is the owner of the file will be ran as that owner. So bash, for example, was ran as root. So whoever you logged in didn't matter. You got a root shell. Audit users. This is the users file from grade BOA. There's letters A through Z on this box. I'm assuming all of weak passwords didn't actually check that, but all the boxes had these. I think on the AD box we had like users like red, green on there. Those were extraneous, and they might have been members of like the root or administrators group as well. Some thoughts on users. Use essential authentication for those. Remove the extraneous ones by auditing the etc users file or Windows going and finding the local users. Using essential authentication like LDAP or AD allows you, so if we have hiring and firing anomalies, you can like add them and remove them fairly quickly without having to send someone to each box and each service to add them. Look at what ports are open. This is again from grade BOA. There was a script in one of the files, I'll come up a couple slides, that would open up shells on every port from like 0 to 1024. Supposedly these didn't work, at least I was told by Red Team, but this is something to look out for. So how do you audit these? netstat-tln will tell you what's listening. Check your man pages for more additional options. Use nmap to look for other services. That also would be helpful. Some other countermeasures, use a firewall. If you would put a firewall up between one of these servers and the competition network, only pass through the ports you needed, these would have been on the competition network. The thing is, though, if you put everything on the internal network, if Red Team gets one of your boxes, then they can still hop around to the internal network if you don't have an on-device firewall. So having both on-device and dedicated are both really helpful, so that way, if Red Team gets in, their damage isn't spread. Also remove unneeded services. Things, like, why do you have a telnet server running on your Windows box? Those have existed before. Why do you have a telnet server running on your Linux box? Those are insecure, typically running over plain text. There's a whole bunch of services like that. Remove those. And then also, you can request additional networks from us So if you want to have additional internal networks, send us an email and we'll be happy to create those for you during CDCs. So that's an important note there. Check users' profiles. So this is in root's batch profile. So whenever root logged in, it would recreate the user Bobby tables. And then it would put some password in there. Looks like maybe no password. I'm not quite sure. Also check the extended profile. So this is in Etsy profile D. So the all those ports I showed you earlier, it opened up. This is where all the ports got opened up. Was in Etsy profile D, color LS. So sounds benign, but it wasn't. All right, now talk about the web server. How many people actually stuck with Gen 2 for the web server? No one. Good choices. Notice who's running the web server here? It's root. So as discussed earlier, if you pair this with C99, you know how root should on the box, just by going to a web page. How is this possible? You can compile Apache with -d big security hole. This is a real build flag. With Apache, if you don't compile with this, it will refuses to run as root. But if you do compile with this, it will run as root. And my advice for that one is just start over. If the scenario says you can start over on a box, just do it. There's probably a reason why. All right, Lunch Monkey. How many people spent the time learning group policy? And a couple people you did. How well did that work out for you guys?
Delayed.
Delayed?
If we'd fixed the terminal blue, it would have been great. Or if I'd put absolute path on one file sync one, it would have been great.
Yeah, I'll be talking about Eternal Blue in a moment. First thing is that check your update sources. For this one, if you would have ran Windows updates, we have told you you're completely up to date. Slight problem, you're updating from my update server, and my update server only had updates, say, if it's anything March forward, I didn't push out. So you're running Windows updates from about February or so. So this is back. Eternal Blue was a vulnerability in the SMB protocol, revealed back in about early March, February timeframe. And Microsoft patched this, but it appears that a lot of places don't actually run their Windows updates. And so over the summer, in about May, we got a virus called WannaCry that used that to spread. And so it's actually fairly true that exploit. Tom Poole, one of the red teamers, had a fairly large list of sessions opened up because of Eternal Blue. Audit who's in your administrators group. On provided VMs, guest and the special console user were all in the administrators group. So that means, the guest users tended as a generic user. I should disable it for the CDC, but it was in there. And the console user, which was the required user, and this scenario was like, we have some dumb boxes sitting out the lunchroom that require this username to be password, the username and password be console, and they were in the administrators group. Again, audit running services, SMB was running on most of the boxes. There was really no reason to be running that. We didn't have require any shares being ran. If you guys simply disabled SMB, you wouldn't have had issues with Eternal Blue. All right, so for securing the console box, group policy is your friend. This cable's not my friend, yes. Group policy is Microsoft's way of managing machines. I'll have them real quick here of kind of some ways to. Go analog. All right, so group policy. We'll have a demo real quick here of how to set up group policy. All right, so there's multiple ways to get to it, but the easiest way if you want to manage a specific user is in the run box, type in MMC, Microsoft Management Console. Click on Action, File, Add New Snap-in. Group Policy Object, Add. And then here you can browse to users. An important note, if you open up gpedit.msc and then select user, that will only affect your currently logged in users. Some people, like the lab jams, they were logged into administrator, did that, and they made their administrator not be able to open like Task Manager. So this is the way to get in there so that your administrator can still do that. All right, so a lot of the useful stuff is under administrative templates and then under system. So we can, under control delete options, we can make it so they can't change their password, they can't lock the computer. We can say they're not allowed to have Task Manager. You can just enable that. We can say they can't log off. We can go to internet communications. Another thing in the scenario is you could restrict the internet communications on this one. So they only need to talk to Grade BOA. They don't need to be able to talk to other internet sources to try to help reduce the attack surface of your machine. And you can kind of go in here and do that. For restricting software settings, security policies, software restrictions, and if we add new software restrictions policies, we can now go through here and add some basic rules for that. Any other things you guys wanted to see on the systems themselves? Any parts of the application you guys are want some demos of?
Are you able to give an example of port forwarding
The port forwarding?
over SSH?
Over SSH, I can do that, yeah. All right, so you set the system you want to log into. We'll use an ISH one. And all right, so there's two types. So dash capital L means it's a local port forward. So so you can put a port, a service, and then the destination port. So this thing is, so on my localhost 3000, forward isq.ish.org from icepick, forward its port 80 to me. So that's kind of one way you can do port forwarding through SSH on your local machine. And then you can believe is it dash capital R to do the reverse direction. And that way you can forward my port 3000 to the local machine, or whatever mine is to that port. So, other questions? How many people used pfSense or firewalls in general? Has anybody used any other firewall OSs? I think some people maybe use Sophos. pfSense is pretty good, just don't use virtual IPs. It breaks things. Physical security was fun at this CDC. Lots and lots of open consoles. Especially, we don't want this top left guy next to your computer. That's Tom Pool. Bad day. Or maybe that Drake guy either. Are there any questions for me? Remember, red team is watching. Fun story about this, in a high school competition, a team helpfully posted all of the source code to a publicly accessible GitHub account. Just dumped all of it right there. It was red team was very thankful for that.
Didn't you mention there was some leaks on Facebook of stuff?
Oh yes, there was some team was communicating with Tom Pool via Facebook about things. Those are also really fun.
We did that last spring, but that because we have like 2 people who work for it.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. Tom Poll is a lot of fun. Yeah, there's about 75% of the flags captured by red team by this one. So there's the flags over time was interesting. So there's a couple different. I believe this was the first fire drill right here. Lots of flags gone. I think this is the second one. I'm not quite sure what happened here, but there's lots of fun that happened here right towards the end of the competition.
You're talking about the end, those are all ours.
Those are all yours.
They're all ours.
So the most captured flag, interesting enough, was the lunch monkey sea flag, which was interesting. So this graph is a percentage of flags lost for each team. So 100% on this graph means every team lost this flag. Typically, Windows systems that are considered by a red team is not to be as vulnerable, but this time they were very vulnerable. Really, Eternal Blue was a big thing, and then people not knowing how to secure the console user was just a significant problem.
What were some more vulnerabilities on the www?
The www box, that box had so many issues just getting up and running. I mean, I tried to get up and running, and I had so many issues. I mean, the networking wasn't configured right. Getting PHP to start was an issue, but I believe probably the sudoers file was messed up. I don't know how many vulnerabilities were put into that one. I don't know if anyone from staff got anything on that one. But yeah, there was a whole, it was a Gen 2 box, and that was enough of a challenge as it is. Little fun statistics, the team that lost the fewest flag was Team 20 of 2, which is pretty interesting. No one was safe in this competition. Also, earn backs are really important. You can get up to 50 points back from those flags if you can tell us why, and we do give partial credit. So, you know, when I go into IScore and I see flags that haven't been done earn backs, I can see a whole bunch of potentially missing points on there, and it's something you should do. For advice for trying to get those is have an IDS and external logging. Those are 2 good things that are helpful for figuring out how red team got in. Other questions?
Did you say that they had the least or most flags?
They had the least with 2.
22?
Only 2.
Oh, 20.
20. Team 20, only 2.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure I thought you said 20.
No.
22.
Yeah, team.
A lot.
Yes. But Team 1, the team that won, lost 8 flags. They still got first place. So it's not all about flags. It's about anomalies. It's about documentation. Yeah, documentation is huge. Also, the red team evals went fairly well. Went pretty well this time as well. In general, the red team evals, that's fairly subjective, but don't whack-a-mole them. Don't post mean messages to them, things like that. They don't like that. They get mad pretty quickly about that kind of stuff. Other questions? All right, Daniel, I'll give it back to you.
Do you want to talk about something? Yeah, okay.
I did that.
It's on the right. Auxiliary.
There we go. Okay. No, that's not right. Hold on. Okay, there we go. So, this week's puzzler had about 3 solutions. It had Nathan, Derek, and Nick, I believe. It was come on. Oh, I need a minute. Hopefully this isn't going for too long. Okay, so this one was an audio file, which was sometimes playable depending on which audio player you used. The reason it wasn't playable, or if it was playable, it sounded kind of corrupted. This was because I opened the file up in Notepad and then just dropped the flag into the middle of it. And to figure this out, you just open up like Notepad++, type Control F, and type in IASG left brace, something like that. For Linux command line, the way to do it is you would, so I got the file there, type, command is called grep. I cannot do this. I'll type it over here. This is hard for me. Okay, so the command is called grep, and you first thing on it is what you want to search for. So in this case, it's ISG left curly brace. Then the file, which is track01 MP3, and then you have to use the -A switch because you're working with a binary. And right in the middle there, there's your flag. Any questions? Okay, next week's flag's up. It's another audio file, a bit harder this time around, and that's all for me.
All right, so I'm just going to be going into beginner's night on Python.